Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about sensory motor OCD and my journey and some things that I've I've found that really helped me on my journey throughout the time. If you want to make sure you like and subscribe down at the bottom, and then if you have any questions, just obviously leave questions or comments if you want me to do future videos on this or any other topics. Now, my sensory motor OCD journey began. The first time I had an issue with it, I was about 21 years old. I It's kind of funny to say, but I had taken a lot of edibles when I was like 20, 21, and I started freaking out about my breathing. I thought that I was gonna die in my sleep because I couldn't breathe. I ended up going to the emergency room, and it sounds funny, but I was afraid of having a panic attack because I had a panic attack at that time, and it was pretty. I wouldn't say the panic attacks were kind of violent. I guess violent towards myself, but I had a panic attack that was like a seizure. So essentially, what would happen is my whole body would seize up. My hands, my feet, my legs. Like I felt like someone beat the crap out of me afterwards for like the next couple of days, extremely sore. So they were anxiety panic attacks that turned into a type of seizure, and ended up going to the doctor. I got some medicine. I ended up taking medication for about a year or two. When I got off the medication, I dealt with focusing on my breathing pretty heavily for probably about 3-4 months. I ended up quitting drinking. I started exercising all the time. And from then on, I always had this thing, probably 30 minutes a day, where I was focusing on my breathing to some extent because I would get anxious and I was worried about having a panic attack. Well, about a year and a half later, I had an instance where I started focusing on my breathing all the time because I was afraid of, like I said, having a panic attack. I ended up having a panic attack. I started having 3 to 5 of them a day for weeks and weeks and weeks. I ended up upping my medication, and within about 3-4 weeks, I eventually got away from it. And stopped having issues with it. I ended up being on the medication for about 9 months, weaned off of it, and I still had really bad anxiety. I focused on my breathing. I was trying to run all the time to avoid panic attacks. I was constantly trying to avoid panic attacks all the time because I was afraid that if I had a panic attack, I would have one of those seizures, and I had thought to myself that I would end up getting super depressed and end up trying to kill myself. That's how my thoughts had attached to this. And believe it or not, this is when my OCD didn't really get out of control. Once after this happened, I ended up focusing a lot on like my health. I started exercising a lot. I didn't drink, nothing. And it ended up, my theme changed to health OCD. And at the time I had no idea I had OCD at all, but allergies. But so when it moved to health OCD, I probably for about 3 years, I talk about the diets. Like I was eating the same thing compulsively every day. I thought I was allergic to everything. I exercised constantly. I probably took like 15, 20 different types of supplements. Worked out probably 2 hours a day. I was ripped, don't get me wrong, but constantly anxious, trying to avoid panic attacks. So I was focusing on my breathing all the time. And I ended up hurting myself. I didn't realize it at the time, but I hurt myself, and I started having really bad stomach pain. At the time, I also was doing yoga a lot. I went actually to Hawaii and trained for a 200-hour YTT. Excuse me. It's a Topo Chico. It's not alcohol. But I ended up doing a 200-hour YTT. While in Hawaii, I started experiencing insane pain. Like insane pain in my stomach. I was waking up at night and I was vomiting sometimes. I only got 2, 3, 4 hours of sleep at night. My anxiety was so bad. I felt like I was going to have a panic attack all the time. I thought about my breathing nonstop. And while in Hawaii, I was trying to contact counselors or anyone that could help. I mean, it was just so bad. After that, I ended up moving in with my girlfriend at the time. I moved across the country to live with her. I ended up finding out I had 3 hernias at the same time. I had a hiatal, inguinal, and then I had a umbilical hernia. I got 2 of them fixed. The other one, it's still there, but it doesn't really cause me any problems. And after the surgery, I had a short period where I was like, I'm good, I'm fixed. The pain was gone. I wasn't focusing on my breathing. Within probably about 3-4 days after the surgery, I was locked. I was locked. I 24 hours a day focused on my breathing. Nonstop. It's all I thought about. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And I just thought that if I didn't stop focusing on it, I would end up having a panic attack. I thought my stitches would get ripped apart because of my panic attacks were so painful. I thought I would end up I would end up having a panic attack and make me want to kill myself. I was so locked, and I was in so much mental anguish. I was once I started to heal, I compulsively read the Bible every day. I would do chants as well. I read the Bhagavad Gita compulsively. I would do chants every day and meditating. I would meditate for a certain amount of minutes. I would do a certain amount of chants. I would do yoga for a certain amount of time. I would go to yoga classes all the time. My diet was super restricted, and I kept doing all these compulsions for hours and hours and hours every day, and it didn't matter what I did. It never went away. I was Googling constantly, trying to find help. I went and saw a EMDR therapist. I saw a regular CBT therapist. I saw a homeopathic doctor that tested me for all this different stuff. I did Touch for Health therapy. I went to a doctor and I got tested for every single allergy there was. I had hypnotism done. I don't know if I already said that. Nothing helped. Didn't matter how much I exercised. I was doing so many compulsions. I got to the point where I was drinking every single day. And this was like a year of just nonstop. And then it switched to me focusing on my saliva, swallowing my saliva all the time, nonstop, and swallowing and then saliva and then breathing. It would just switch between all three. I also had ROCD a little that was coming in there, popping up. But the sensory motor was by far the thing that just really, really took hold. After about a year of this, I had a brief month where I was able to recover from symptoms, and then it came back really hard for about eight months to a year. I ended up flying out to Utah and going to a therapist that did ketamine treatments. I did ketamine where they injected it into my muscles. I did it every day, 3 or 4 times a day for literally 4 days straight. It was really crazy. I ended up getting prescribed a nasal spray, and I was taking nasal spray 10 times a day, prescribed by a doctor, and then I was drinking with it. Really stupid, because I didn't want to take SSRIs because I was worried about the side effects with SSRIs because of previous side effects, and I probably should have just took the SSRIs, to be honest. But it just got to a point where I would come home and just lay in bed, and I just literally thought about killing myself every single day. All I thought every day was, I should just kill myself. I hadn't felt a positive emotion probably in 2 years. It didn't matter if I was having sex with my girlfriend, if I was having good times with my friends. I might have little blips of, but under it was just this massive, just feeling terrible. I just hated my life. I was just I felt like I deserved it because I was such a bad person. I had just chronic guilt that I had just done so many shitty things to people, that I was just such a bad person that I deserved it, and that God was punishing me. And it was a tough time, and I remember one day I was in South Dakota at the time, and I was compulsively searching online, and I had just thought to myself, well, maybe I'll check Instagram, see if I can find something that'll help me, or motivational Instagram for OCD. And then I found OCD recovery. And I looked at some of the quotes, and one of the quotes that came up that really stood out, it said, "You are not broken." And I had always felt like I was broken. Something was really wrong with me, right? Like I was broken. I felt like I was this, I don't know. I felt like there was something just wrong with me my whole life, and I could never figure it out, and I ended up messaging, and I said, "Hey, I really like your content. Thank you for what you're doing, blah, 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 blah." And at the time, I had done so much research, I figured I had OCD for probably about a year, but maybe about a year and a half, but I was never formally diagnosed. So I ended up talking to Rob, and that was who messaged me back. And he's like, "Oh, do you have OCD?" And I was like, "I think I do." And he's like, "What do you think about it all the time?" So I explained it a little bit, and he's like, "I can help you. Let's set up a call next week." And I was just like, F it. I'll do anything at this point. If you told me I could eat a bowl of nails without any milk that would help my OCD, I would do it. I wouldn't care. What I'll do whatever it takes. We did a meeting, and he explained to me what was going on and what my fear was. And my fear was fear that I would be like this forever, and then it would ruin my life. And then he also explained that, he had a similar thing happen where he had a hernia. And he started focusing on his breathing and his saliva, kind of like exact same thing as me, and it tripped me out. And I was like, it just seemed like he kind of knew, he just knew everything I was thinking that was going on. So he gave me a couple books to read. Fast forward a month later, I was working my job full time. I started exercising every day. I started to actually have a life, even being chronically anxious. I had blips where it was gone, it went away. And I had a couple months sometimes where I had no symptoms at all, but, kept coming back, obviously, because I had more work to do. At first, I feel like when the first time I really recovered from OCD, I kind of bullied my way into it. I was just like, F it, I'm going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to feel like crap. I ended up being in South Dakota for probably about, 2 years. And my OCD was kind of off and on. And I had times where it was good, bad, and I ended up moving to Oklahoma. I broke up with my girlfriend at the time. I lived in Oklahoma. And I remember one day I'm just sitting there watching TV, and my brain's, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. And I'm just doing my thing. I'm watching TV. I'm eating. I've been sober for probably about 3-4 months. And then all of a sudden it was gone. My compulsive thoughts, everything, it was just like everything disappeared. And I was kind of just sitting there. I was like, it'd probably been a minute or two. And then I realized, I said, what the heck happened, And it was a very surreal moment, right? So I ended up getting really comfortable for a while. I started getting back into some old habits, drinking, stuff like that. And I ended up getting stuck again. And the second time getting stuck, I got stuck for about 7 months and experienced insane body sensations. And pardon, insane is not the proper word. Really aggressive body sensations. And I'd never experienced them before. And I experienced them for 7 months. I went from feeling like I was going to vomit nonstop to feeling like my neck, someone was holding my neck super tight. I would feel crazy nauseous. My eyes would hurt, my back would hurt, my stomach would hurt. I was vomiting, diarrhea. I mean, it was just so overwhelming all the time. And it was this part of the journey is when I feel like I really started to learn about OCD. So the first time it happened, I learned a little bit about scientific thinking, and I also learned to not put myself down and accept myself, and accept others, accept the world, and life circumstance. And but I really never did a ton of breaking things down. And what I mean by this, I would like sit in the shower for like 5 minutes and be like, well, what if I'm stuck like this forever? And blah, 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 blah. And I would talk to myself for 3 minutes, but I literally never did it. I never did it. And when this happened, I was locked. I mean, and it didn't matter what I did. I mean, I was locked. It went, and my theme after a couple months started switching really aggressively. I mean, my theme would switch to like 5 times a day, just boom, 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 boom. And I started talking to Nick. Me and him started developing a pretty good relationship. And what I didn't realize was that was going on was a lot of the mental compulsions. So I didn't have any outward compulsions, but it was mental, right? So I was ruminating constantly, nonstop. Now, the thing with rumination that I think made a big difference for me is understanding the internal thermometer, constantly measuring how you feel. And then also, the gloom and doom that constantly goes on, the intrusive thoughts, right? So learning that until I looked at the fear and really broke down the fear, that rumination is automatic. It's not something that you can make go away. You will constantly be stuck. Okay. So I finally had to get to a point where I spent time, and I remember talking to Nick, and Nick's like, dude, if you've never really done this, you need to do 30 days straight, like every day, 30 minutes a day, breaking this stuff down. So I didn't do a ton on paper. I talked to myself for 30 minutes, and I went over and I broke down my fears. And over time, I started to, the rumination completely went away within, for me, probably within a couple months. Then I was super sensitized, and I just rode the wave. And I started getting to a point where I was like I would use it to my advantage. Like I had so much energy, being so anxious all the time. I was just working out a ton, going to work, doing my thing. And eventually I just got to a point where it was gone. And I had almost zero anxiety for about over a year. And I recently had ROCD come and creep up on me for about 3-4 weeks, where I had pretty heavy anxiety. But I'm at a point now where like everything's really neutral. It's good. And I realize when this stuff is coming up, it's more things for me to work on. But I have, in the past 5 years, I have probably had 50% of it where I've had zero to almost no anxiety. And a lot of the stuff at first, the biggest part where I was mostly anxious was at the beginning, right? And I want to tell you guys about my journey, right? So when this first happened, I had a business where I had 100 employees. When my OCD first kicked off super hard, I was making really good income, doing super well. And then all of a sudden, everything went to crap. I lost all my employees. My business had to close it down because of my anxiety. Fast forward, I'm right back in the same spot where I have my own thing back with around the same amount of employees, and I'm back to myself. And when OCD rears its head, I live my life 100%, right? And sensory motor is not really a thing that really bugs me anymore. Okay, it is not really a thing that bugs me at all, because I am not afraid of dealing with it forever. Okay, now. So there's kind of my story, my journey. Now, what I'll tell you, the important things about sensory motor OCD is normally it surrounds fear of fear. Okay, so that's fear of being stuck forever, and that you will it will ruin your life. Okay, and there's usually things that go off of that. For me, I was worried about not being able to have a relationship, not being able to hold down a job. Right, those were my biggest things. So I started to break down the worst case scenario, right? Also with my breathing, I actually looked up automatic processes. The scientific thing is that basically, there's a certain part of your brain, the reptilian part of the brain, that automatically controls this process, right? Logic or not, that's not really the way to get through it. So I had to break down the worst case scenario. If I focused on my breathing every day, what would happen? Well, I would wake up, I would I would probably go to the gym. I would eat breakfast. I would go to work. I would try to, I'd go out, have fun with friends when I can, maybe watch some TV. Pretty much all the crap that I was already doing, but my mind told me that because you're focusing on this all the time, you're going to have a miserable life. And the reality of it is I was living life. I was living it. I had made a decision to live life before I just laid down and I said, this is going to make me not live life. And I made the decision to live life. And when I lived it, I was like, the worst case scenario is what I'm already doing. And maybe I'll be chronically anxious like this forever. Right. And when I accepted that I could still live life, it went away. It went away. I had to work through it. Now, with my saliva, I looked up online. I looked up why is saliva important, and it has enzymes that actually help you break down your food. So I thought to myself, this is kind of funny. I said, worst case scenario, I'm going to digest my food really well. Maybe my stomach's going to feel a little funny from swallowing so much. And it made it kind of comical, right? But I also got to the point where I didn't care if I focused on it nonstop 24 hours a day. Because if I did, I was still going to do whatever the heck that I wanted. I never let it, I got to a point where I didn't let it stop me. I was chronically anxious. I would go sing karaoke. I would do public speaking. I was chronically anxious when I was doing videos like this. I lived my life, okay? Now, the thing that people don't really talk about with sensory motor OCD is the mental compulsions, and I kind of highlighted it earlier. It's not something that's really well known. It's not something that people understand, okay? Now, exposures are good, but you do not need to do exposures with this kind of theme. Why? Because the exposure already exists constantly nonstop. If you're focusing on your breathing, you don't need to sit in a room 20, 30, 40 minutes a day and focus on your breathing. It doesn't help, okay? It doesn't help to swallow 50 times in a row and make your throat hurt. It doesn't help to try to focus on your heartbeat, okay? It's already there. Now, so for exposures, your exposure's there all the time. Don't worry about it, okay? The second thing is mental compulsions, okay? So the amazing thing about mental compulsions, okay, is that they are the roadmap. They're the thing that tells you what you need to know that you need to work on to break down, to work on that fear, right? So fear of fear being probably the biggest one that you'll be compulsively stuck forever. The second one, okay, that maybe you'll experience some kind of physical or mental pain being focusing on this thing forever, right? Pain, okay. Another thing is not being comfortable with body sensations. And then for me, I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to have a relationship or be able to have sex even, or be able to have a girl that would like me, or that I would ruin every relationship because of my anxiety. And then the other one for me was my job. I was afraid I wouldn't be able to hold down a job, okay? And so I broke those down, all right? So I said, well, with a relationship, obviously it would be great to have one, but if I didn't have one, I could still live and be happy, because relationships are a part of your life, but they're not detrimental. They're not something that is like breathing, okay? Like you can be happy and be alone, okay? It took me a while to get there, right? And that's a sub theme I've had come up a few times that I've still had to work on, and there's still work I need to do there. When it comes to a job, I said, worst case scenario, what happens if I can't hold down a job, or I keep going from job to job because my anxiety is so bad? Well, probably move in with my mom or my sister, which I love very much. I wouldn't want to freaking live with them though. But they both cook really good, and I'd probably have 3 square meals, and I'd be sitting on a couch probably compulsively playing video games or maybe drinking beer. And I thought to myself, well, worst case scenario, I'm a bum and I'm gaining a bunch of pounds, and I'm playing video games and drinking beer on the couch at mom's, and being kind of annoyed and yelling, "Mom, get me meatloaf," And when I broke down that reality, it's not that bad. It's really not that bad. Like, being compulsively anxious is not that bad. When you look at people who have a terminal illness like cancer, right? And there's some people that are going to have themes around being terminally ill because of fear of death, right? And that's something for me, because of my health OCD, I had to work on too, right? But when it comes to sensory motor OCD, Fear is usually the big one, okay? And you need to look at those thoughts. When those thoughts are happening, don't do this compulsively. Don't do this when this happens, because anytime you tell your mind no against something, you're trying to fight away anxiety, it's not going to work. Get your phone or a notepad and say, all right, well, this is my fear because I've been thinking about it a lot, right? You have these 2 or 3 things. Take some time, 10, 20, 30 minutes a day, 3 to 5 times a week for a month, and work on them, okay? After you do it for a month, leave them alone for a month. Let them fly, let them run. Feel that uncomfortableness. Feel that, right? And then you'll see what you need to work on. Those are your roadmaps, okay? Now, the other thing with sensory motor OCD is really good exposures. And in my opinion, okay, and I'm not telling you to go think about your breathing, any crap like that, is I think exercise is a really good one, because you're making yourself uncomfortable with body sensations. And when you do something physically exhausting, and you push yourself in that way, it's going to help you be more uncomfortable with be more comfortable with uncomfortable body sensations. And also you find joy. Another one is coffee. A little bit of caffeine, okay? I'm not telling you to go out and start doing anything crazy like Nick taking 300 milligrams of caffeine in his pre-workout, which is bananas. I could never do that. But coffee, okay? I was so scared to drink coffee. I was so afraid to drink it. I made myself. Rob was like, you need to drink coffee. So I started my day every day with a cup of coffee. Now it's my favorite thing. I literally, without coffee, I would be like, holy crap, I have no joy in my life besides food. I love coffee so much, okay? And I was so afraid of public speaking because I was afraid of having a panic attack and focusing on my breathing. And so I made myself do karaoke, and it is my favorite thing. I love singing in front of people, okay? I love it. It's so fun. I love coffee. I love exercising. And the things that you feared the most become the things that you end up becoming such an integral, amazing part of life. And that's OCD recovery. It's finding those things that make you uncomfortable and making them a part of your life. And it's amazing. And, what I'll tell you is, if you have been stuck and you are stuck and you are chronically anxious with sensory motor OCD, you can recover. You can recover. And you can have robust recovery without chronic anxiety. And there's going to be things that come up that you need to work on, right? You have OCD. It's part of your life. And it's going to take time. Be patient. And just know that, like, you're lucky that you're in a time where there's people that know how to deal with it, that can help. We're in such an amazing time in our lives. So anyways, well, that's me and my sensory motor journey, guys. And I hope it helped. And I hope you guys have an awesome day.